Welcome to On the Issues. I'm Councilman Jim Waring. Joining me on today's show is Paradise Valley Community College President Paul Dale. President Dale, thanks so much for coming on. We really appreciate this very much. Long overdue, in my opinion, given how important Paradise Valley Community College is to District 2. You want to talk a little bit about your 30th anniversary?
Sure. Well, thanks for the invite.
Sure.
I'm pleased to be here. Yeah, it's hard to believe Paradise Valley opened our doors in 1987 with about 4,000 students, so it's been fun to watch us grow into a comprehensive community college. We're up close to 9,000 students right now and been serving North Phoenix, for the last 30 years. So it's been a marvelous ride. I've been at the college 20 years now, so it's been great to see us kind of grow into our own in terms of serving the residents in North Phoenix.
Well, I've worked with you for a long time, seen the college grow, a lot of new buildings. I'm on the campus, it seems like, at least monthly, probably been there hundreds of times over the last 20 years. And it's really exciting to see the energy, all the modifications that have come across over since your tenure. I've served on your president's council for many years and have really gotten to know your predecessors as well as yourself. And it's really been a point of pride for District 2. You want to talk about some of your programs? Like, I'm really interested in your veterans program, for example.
So we are a veterans-friendly school. That is one of the target populations that we're looking to serve. Obviously, veterans, when they come back to school, sometimes have additional needs as it relates to what we call wraparound services, additional academic advising, counseling, and support. About a little bit over a year ago, we opened up a brand new Veterans Center, which provides veterans a place to call home on campus. It's staffed by our veterans coordinators, but also a number of peer veterans who kind of, again, provide that kind of home away from home, if you will, in terms of our veteran students. It is one of our fastest growing populations, and certainly as veterans are retiring or getting out of the military, continuing education or getting an associate's degree or preparing for transfer is a critical part in terms of their readjustment and kind of getting back into life in the greater Phoenix area. So it's been a great program to see the veterans program take off and grow.
Well, that's just very fantastic, to hear about, because obviously the city of Phoenix has worked a lot on helping veterans who are in need here in our city. But you mentioned something about the AA degree. You want to talk a little bit about, because there are different reasons people go to the community college. Sometimes it's just to advance their skills in a certain area. Some it's to get a degree. Some it's to go on to one of the four-year colleges. What percentage? You talked about 9,000 students. What's the breakdown of the student population?
So our largest proportion of students, our students are coming to us in preparation for transfer to ASU, U of A, or NAU primarily, and also Grand Canyon. About 2/3 of our students indicate that transfer is their intent, so they're coming and taking the general education core courses. All three state universities and Grand Canyon all have really well-articulated pathway programs, so students optimize their credit. Any given
so those credits will transfer over and apply towards an ASU degree.
Absolutely. In fact, with ASU, we have what's called the MAPS program. So students successfully complete an associate's degree with the appropriate GPA. They're not only admitted to ASU, but they're admitted to the specific ASU program they're looking to pursue. So in any given semester, we have about 4,800 former Paradise Valley Community College students enrolled in one of the three state universities. So that is one of our strengths. And in fact, our data shows, our research shows that students who transfer to one of the three state universities actually do slightly better than native students in terms of their 4-year, 5-year, and 6-year completion rates. So transfer students tend to be a little bit more serious and a little bit more focused. But again, that is our bread and butter, if you will. Certainly in terms of the math, the social sciences, humanities, the science areas, and quite frankly, the development of our college has been around supporting that transfer function, although we have added a number of new occupational programs as we've kind of grown over the years as well.
Now for students, the advantage is, one of the advantages is it's a little bit cheaper to go to your college. You want to talk a little bit about that?
I think $86 a credit hour, so it's obviously very affordable. And we probably need to do a better job of telling that story. And not only is it a third of the tuition cost that you would find at a university, but again, most of our classes are small. We don't really have a classroom bigger than that seats 30 students. So,
that is different than the freshman experience. Even when I was in school 30 years ago, that's not the way it is at a major university.
And primarily, if a student goes to school during the daytime, is that they're going to be having full-time faculty who have chosen the community colleges because they want to teach. Their passion is teaching and learning, and so their focus is about relationship building with students. It's about creating engaging learning environments, and so it really is, in some respects, kind of the best kept secret in terms of the quality of the teaching and learning that occurs in a community college. We like to say that our institution is one that we are changing ourselves to be better adaptable to students rather than forcing students to change to be adaptable to us. So I think that is one of our highlights, and really one of the prides I have as a president is to really watch our faculty do their work, engage with students, see them engage both in and out of the class, those kinds of things. So that's kind of again, one of the best kept secrets about a community college experience.
Now, you talked about the faculty. How much of your faculty is full-time, full benefit faculty, and then how much is part-time folks from the community who are teaching classes?
Sure, so roughly about 40% of all of our courses are taught by full-time faculty, 60% are taught by adjunct. Our district has a goal to kind of flip that ratio, if you will. We'd like to be at a place where roughly 60% of our courses are taught by full-time and 40% by adjunct. Kind of the beautiful thing about that, though, is as you've indicated, our adjunct faculty bring a wealth of real-life experiences. So in our business area, our IT area, even in things like psychology or sociology, our adjunct oftentimes are practitioners in those areas. So that synergy between, if you will, the traditional academic and the practitioner, if you will, I think creates kind of an interesting, in some ways, a complementary relationship between adjunct and full-time. So that's kind of the mix right now.
Well, I've had friends who have taught classes just because they like teaching the classes. Legislators, business people, they like getting in the classroom. They like the energy, which is what I see when I go on campus too. But they get very excited about the opportunity to be around the young people, and so that's refreshing to hear. But I do understand how you want to sort of flip that, as you said, the 60-40 the other way. So what goals do you have in terms of when that might happen? Are you hiring? If there's somebody out watching right now who maybe wants to be a college professor, are you the person that they should call?
Yeah, they can absolutely call me, and I'll direct them to the right person. But so obviously it's a question of resources in that we're trying to balance an economic and a revenue model that supports both adjunct and full-time faculty. Our district has made a commitment to fund a number of faculty every year. The last couple of years, Paradise Valley has not been one of the colleges that have gotten resources for additional full-time faculty. At the same time, the older baby boomer faculty are retiring, so I would say on average we're hiring maybe 3 to 5 new faculty, full-time faculty a year, even from retirements alone. So system-wide, throughout the 10 Maricopa colleges, this is really a good time for anyone who's interested in both either adjunct or full-time teaching to begin to look at that as an option, because there will be opportunities become open and become available.
Didn't intend the show to become a big help wanted ad, but since you said that, I figured there might be people watching who are really qualified, might be excited to avail themselves of that opportunity. But you did talk about the 10 colleges as a system. Would you talk a little bit about how the system's set up? You've got a board and other presidents and your interactions with them?
Sure, and that's another thing, I appreciate that question as well, that's another thing many people don't know, is that Paradise Valley Community College is part of the Maricopa County Community College system. We are a system of 10 colleges, part of a larger system, but at the same time we're separately accredited. The beauty of that is that students can take courses at one of at least 25 locations throughout the valley. Most of our campuses have multiple locations.
So you can take courses at Paradise Valley and then take courses at one of the other, and it transfers, seamless transition to the four-year colleges.
Exactly, all part of the same system. So it's very common, about 20% of our students are actually co-enrolled in any given semester between, say, PV and Rio, or PV and Scottsdale, or Glendale, depending upon where they live and work. That has been one of our institutional goals, is to make it easier for students to seamlessly move about each institution as it relates to the admissions process, the enrollment process. But many, like I said, it's a great opportunity. All the single set of course banks, single programs, so they're all aligned in terms of academics. So again, it's really, we're in fact one of the largest systems in the country as it relates to community colleges, and so it does provide students a wealth of opportunity. And we have many students who might start their day at PV because that's where they live, but end their day at a different college because they work in a different part of town. So it's a great opportunity. We need to do a better job of telling that story about the Maricopa system as well.
Now you report to the chancellor?
Correct. Right, so the 10 college presidents report to Dr. Mia Harper-Marinick, who's our chancellor, who's been leading us for the last year. Tons of energy, new vision, new direction for the system. And again, part of her direction towards us is to encourage us to, not encourage, but direct us to work more as a system, so that we can really focus our resources and efforts on the teaching and learning that occurs in the classroom, and not duplicate some of the support systems that historically have been duplicated across multiple campuses. So again, each college somewhat unique. We're unique to our service area, the folks that we serve. But again, that core value of teaching, learning, student success is really part of all 10 of the Maricopa community colleges.
So where does the board fit in? Because voters watching this right now may say, hey, I remember voting for that. I get a lot of questions about that. Who are these folks? What do they do? Sure. You want to explain a little bit about how that comes to be?
Sure. So we have a 7-member elected board, 5 elected along the alignment of the county supervisory districts, and then 2 at-large members. The 2 at-large members is a relatively new addition to our board within the last couple of years.
And they run the whole county.
Whole county-wide, correct. The board provides direction as it relates to policy. The board provides direction as it relates to resource allocation. What really is strong about our board is they've been very clear about outcomes. So we have clear outcomes around student success and transfer. We have outcomes around workforce development. We have outcomes around about developmental education things. We have outcomes around civic engagement and community engagement. So each of the colleges are held accountable. We've got metrics and targets that track to that. And so our board is very engaged. They're very interested. They're very, very knowledgeable of teaching and learning and what's important that goes on in each of the campuses. So although I report to the chancellor, each of the colleges are really, our work is guided by the, if you will, the policy direction of our board. But they're also obviously having to navigate tough decisions as it relates to limited revenue, certainly looking at ways to encourage increased transfer, increased student success, but they're very engaged. You're right, most folks probably don't know who our elected board are, but when you think about that they oversee, in some cases, depending upon our capital allocation, over $1 billion budget every year, that's a significant part of the quality of life in Maricopa County. And again, we'd certainly encourage folks to be a little bit more engaged in terms of what our system's doing.
Well, you mentioned, $1 billion budget, 10 big campuses. They do have a big responsibility. Then they hire the chancellor, and the chancellor picks the president.
Correct. Right.
Yeah. So, how many people work under your guidance at Paradise Valley?
Oh gosh, it's kind of a little bit of a moving target. So we roughly have about 110 full-time faculty, probably 50 or so, if you will, administrators, quote unquote. Another 65 or 70, if you will, classified staff, and then probably about 500 part-time employees, including our adjunct faculty. So, I think we're the perfect size. We're big enough to be comprehensive, but we're not a mega community college where students get lost. So we're big enough to have all the co-curricular kinds of things, but we're also small enough that I still know just about everybody by name, which is unusual for a community college.
Right. Well, and for those who are unfamiliar, we're talking about 32nd Street and Union Hills. But if you're familiar, it's a nice contained campus. But you also have satellite campuses.
Correct. So we also have another piece of property, a relatively small campus up at 64th Street and Carefree Highway. What's unique about that site, it's in a 3-way partnership. We also have a YMCA there, part of the Valley of the Sun YMCA, who has a full center Y there. And then we also have a foundation who has a community center located on that site. So it's really a partnership-based model. So as we move forward, as that campus is developed, we have 2 buildings up there, about 550, 600 students up there. We'll never have to build a fitness center. We really probably won't have to build meeting rooms because we have a partnership with our 2 key partners. So it's really non-traditional in that format, but really a great economic model. It's a great community model in terms of the flow of folks that come onto that campus. So yeah, it's about 12 miles north of us, and it serves Carefree, Cave Creek, North Phoenix, North Scottsdale, and of course Phoenix goes all the way up to, as you know, Carefree Highway. So it's kind of a unique kind of intersection of municipalities, but a beautiful setting, looks right over Black Mountain. And again, it's one of our fastest growing areas. Our enrollment grew about 15% up there this last year.
Well, I was up and speaking at it not too long ago, and you're right about the beauty of it, but you're planning to expand then up there eventually.
We are. We have about 80 acres up there, surprisingly, about the same size as our campus at 32nd Street and Union Hills. Now, of course, that will have to be plotted with the growth of that area, and certainly as the transportation corridors and those things change up there. But we just opened about 1.5 years ago a science building up there, so our students now don't have to come down to Union Hills to take biology or chemistry. Full laboratories, and as a college president who champions the resource of public dollars, I was a little bit anxious about enrollment, but our science classes filled, and they have been full since. So many students were having to drive down to our main campus, if you will, to take the biology and science courses, but enrollment's been very strong. We also have a kind of a growing astronomy program up there because of the dark sky. It's from what our faculty tell me, it's one of the darkest skies in Maricopa County. So we just have a number of opportunities to do some great stuff in terms of science up there as well.
As someone who has knocked on doors till dusk up there, as you suggest, my district goes up to Carefree Highway. I can assure you it is very dark. When it gets dark, it's dark. So you definitely notice the difference for sure. But we talked a little bit earlier about the student population. So it's true that high school students can take classes at the community college. They do not have to be high school graduates to do so. You want to talk a little bit about that program?
Sure. So we have 3 different ways in which high school students are enrolled. Some are in dual enrollment. They're taking community colleges in their high school, which counts both for high school and community college enrollment.
And those classes would count if they transferred to ASU later on, too.
Right. And then we have students who actually come onto our campus, say after school is over at, say, 12:30, 1:30, if they're a senior and they have time in the afternoon. And then we also have partnerships with feeder schools. So the AAEC charter school is just located adjacent to us. And many of their juniors and seniors are actually taking more courses with us than they're taking at the charter school. And then those courses transfer back to the charter school. It's a great win-win for the students, the parents, and the charter school as well. In fact, there are a number of students within the Maricopa County system that actually have completed an associate's degree by the time they graduate from high school. So I think last year at our college we had probably close to 20 high school students that had already completed an associate's degree, which means they're starting at a university as a junior, really as an 18-year-old young person. So it's a win-win. Obviously, students have to test in the college level courses, so these are high achieving students. These students do well. In fact, I was just talking to a bunch of students who are high school students, and the language they use with me is when we come on campus, we, as they say, student up. They don't want to be perceived as a high school student. So it's a great cohort, countywide, very popular. I think system-wide we have about 15,000 high school students enrolled in one of our community colleges across the district.
We had an intern a few years ago, and he was just what you said. He was basically an 18, 19-year-old college junior, effectively. His parents were actually telling him to slow down a little bit, smell the roses. He really did not, but boy, I mean, I was so impressed, when we got him. I mean, it was like having a 35-year-old in the office working for free, basically. So it was very exciting from my end of it, but I was really impressed. He kind of walked me through, as a parent myself. My kids are much younger than college age, but certainly these are programs that weren't available when I was in high school 30 years ago, and so it was really impressive to see how polished he was and how academically advanced, because he had taken all these college courses already.
Right. Yeah. And again, they do well. They're highly motivated. Certainly they're academically capable. And we typically tend to draw, if you will, and I don't want to stereotype, but more of the high-achieving kinds of students who are enrolled as juniors or seniors. And again, so they're finishing.
They have a goal.
Exactly.
They know what they're trying to do.
They're very goal-directed, very goal-directed. So.
Now, switching gears just a little bit, you talked about the $1 billion. Want to talk a little bit about where the $1 billion comes from?
Sure, a great question. We were just talking about that before we went on air today. About 2/3 of our revenue does come from property taxes. Additionally, a third of our revenue then comes from tuition. Several years ago, the state of Arizona stopped funding Maricopa County community colleges and Pima community colleges. Obviously, the state is going through some challenging times as it relates to revenue.
Well, when I was down in the state Senate, Rufus Glasper, and the chancellor, and those guys would come down every year, and we discussed the budget and everything, but that's no longer the case.
Right. So in a sense, we no longer have a line item in the state budget, and we understand the challenges at the state level. We also understand that, if a district our size loses $68 million in state aid, that does have an adverse impact on the work that we do. We know that the model to keep increasing tuition and tax is not a sustainable revenue model. So we're looking at ways to, if you will, bring in a fourth revenue stream in terms of the colleges trying to be a little more entrepreneurial. Our campus is very aggressive. We lease our facilities to local clubs to use our athletic facilities, our student union. We don't generate a lot of revenue that way, but our district is looking at ways to be a little bit more entrepreneurial. And again, our chancellor is very supportive of making sure tuition is affordable, and very pro in not increasing tuition. So it's really incumbent upon us to be more efficient in how we do our work, look at ways in which we can reduce expenses. And again, we found ways to make it happen, but we also are respectful of the fact that we can't keep going back to the taxpayers as well too in terms of increasing the property tax levy as well. So, but that is what it is. And again, part of our job now is to better educate and inform state legislators and lawmakers the efficacy of the work we do, the return on the investment, in terms of, our students typically, in terms of their potential earnings, their tax contributions, it's multiplied by 2 or 3 or 4 times once they complete an associate's degree. So we need to do a better job of telling our story that we're an investment in the future of economic development and not an expense, if you will, as it relates to sources of revenue.
I think the lifetime earnings for someone with an AA degree, or certainly someone who goes on to university, are dramatically higher than someone who does not.
Absolutely right. And we know that roughly 65% of all future jobs are going to require some form of post-secondary certificate or degree. And again, many of the non-certified or non-degree kinds of jobs, we know that they obviously pay less, may not have benefits, and so we're very much engaged in the statewide initiative to increase the number of percentage of degreed folks to 60% by the year 2030 as part of the Achieve 60 project. So again, it's a critical, important part of feeding the universities and providing folks to go into the workforce. Maricopa County Community Colleges, a quick digression is we are the largest feeder of 9 of the 10 most fast-growing occupational jobs as well too, particularly around health professions and IT and cybersecurity.
I think you work a lot with police and fire as well, do you not?
We do. At PVCC, we have a very strong fire science academy. We have a very, very robust paramedic and EMT program. And in fact, one of the joys of my job is to experience their completion ceremonies in terms of the rigor of those programs, the camaraderie of those programs. Great partnership with the City of Phoenix in terms of our fire science program, does all of our stuff with the City of Phoenix in your facilities. We have a great contractual relationship with the City of Phoenix, and I'd like to think that many of our graduates eventually are employed by the City of Phoenix too, either in paramedicine or in fire science or in the fire service. So yeah, it's probably one of our fastest growing occupational areas at PV.
We were focusing on the finances. We digressed a little bit to an important topic, but going back to that, so you guys, loosely translated, are on the ballot every once in a while, asking voters for money. How does that come about? How are those decisions made? Who makes the decision to go to the ballot?
Sure. So we just recently, in 2004, we were on the ballot for general obligation bond. That provides us capital funding to build new facilities, to do major maintenance, to purchase technology. Those decisions are made by our governing board. Basically, we go back and look at a capital needs analysis. We look at our projection of major maintenance needs over the next 20 years or 15 years. Our campus was built in 1987, so our original buildings now are 30 years old. Our college was not built as a comprehensive college. We were built as a very, if you will, kind of obviously almost like a campus center. So we had to add, for example, science facilities. We had to add facilities to support our fire science, EMT, paramedicine courses. Certainly we've had to add buildings just to support our growth. But again, our board is very prudent in terms of making those decisions. So the voters were very supportive in '04. We passed, I think, above 75% approval rate in every precinct, about a $950 million general obligation bond, again, which allows us to provide facilities so that when students come to us, I would argue that, you walk into any one of our science labs or our academic buildings, is that I would put them up, against any university building in terms of the quality, in terms of that educational experience.
So the $1 billion you talked about, that's system-wide.
Correct.
So what is the budget for Paradise Valley Community College?
Our budget's around $37 million a year, again, serving roughly about 9,000 students. We are a people-intensive business, as you can imagine. 80% of our budget is tied up in people, in both full and part-time.
I can't imagine, because it's similar to the City of Phoenix.
Exactly. So, teaching and learning is a very social endeavor. And again, with relatively low student, teacher, faculty ratios, that is our biggest investment. So in terms of the recruitment, the retention, the development of our faculty and staff, and the support of our faculty and staff, again, it's learning, whether you're doing it face-to-face or online, is highly social. And I'd like to think again that our success is really tied to the fact that we are a very relationship-based institution, so that students have that quality connection. They know their faculty by names, they're connected with their faculty. But as you know, with the City of Phoenix, that part of the business is expensive to maintain.
So we talked about the part-time faculty earlier. Where do they come from? Are they folks strictly from businesses who are interested in getting involved in education, or how do you find them, or do they find you?
Well, they find us, I think. And of course, in certain areas, we have to go out and find them. So for example, we have a hard time finding part-time faculty in the hard sciences, so biology and chemistry, physics. There aren't just a lot of folks who are qualified with a master's degree in that area or significant number of graduate credits in that area. But again, for me, and I know many of our adjunct faculty is as I see adjunct faculty in business IT or psychology or social work or criminal justice, the wealth of knowledge and experience we get from folks, as I mentioned earlier, who are practitioners, who in their day job, if you will, are a social worker, or they may be an attorney, they're teaching an ethics course. They may be an IT professional at American Express. They may be a registered dietitian at Banner Hospital. So that really brings a wealth, and quite honestly, the word community in our name, it keeps us much more dialed into in terms of what are the current realities in the workplace too. So there's a real richness in terms of what our adjunct faculty bring to the table.
Well, I'm sure it leads to potential employment opportunities too for the students who are taking the classes who impress the professor.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah. How much does it pay to be an adjunct faculty?
Not enough.
I've always told people who have said, "Oh, Jim, you should teach some class." I'm like, it's really more of a hobby than it is a job.
It's a labor of love.
Yeah.
And as you said earlier, people do it because they love the teaching and learning experience. And I think we pay about $2,800
so it hasn't
a
changed that much since I did it 20-something years ago.
No, it really hasn't changed. And quite frankly, that is a human resource that I think as a college president we do invest more in terms of really, because when you think about the number of hours they take to prep and the amount of hours they work with students, it really is.
Oh, it's not easy to teach a college class. It takes a lot of hours to get even 1 hour of good coherent
So we should
teaching.
pay more, actually, to be honest with you.
Well, I mean, I want to put you on the spot on that, but there might be people watching at home who might want to do this, and now they know who to contact and how to get involved. So we really appreciate you coming on, though, President Dale. This has been fantastic. I think it's been a good educational opportunity for the folks in our district, hopefully, and anybody who might watch this. I know you were on when Peggy Neely was the councilwoman a few years ago, but I've been remiss in not having you on earlier. I thought the 30th anniversary was a great opportunity to spur this conversation along and get folks who might be interested involved. So I really appreciate you being on. I know you've got tremendous insight into the system, having worked there for 20 years. So
thank you for your support too. I know you're real busy, and the fact that you are still an active member of our advisory group is very helpful for us. So thank you. I appreciate that very much, Councilman.
Thank you. And if you have any questions or comments, please call my office at 602-262-7445 or visit my website, phoenix.gov/district2. And we look forward to seeing you next time on The Issues.